Hi, hello, it's James and Watts. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am a knitwear designer and yarn tastemaker living in Chicago, Illinois. And what else? I do jewelry, I like to swim, I like to run and go for walks, I go to the gym a lot. I'm a professional violinist. That's a fun one. I like to shoot film photography, and I'm drinking hot chocolate. It is sugar-free hot chocolate. I want to say it's Nestle brand. And yeah, sugar-free for my type 2 diabetes, babe. Got to keep that blood sugar low. And in addition to my hot chocolate, I'm also drinking a Mountain Dew Baja Blast, which zero, of course, which I've purchased these cans of Baja Blast Zero that you can get at the store many times over the years. Something's not hitting all the way right about this batch. I feel like it could be a little bit more carbonated and have a little bit more of the probably cancerous flavoring syrup that they put in it. Whatever they're using, whatever chemicals, I would like more. But make sure you have your beverage. What I would suggest for you is a diet soda, if you want to be like me, or a kombucha, which I'm not a big kombucha drinker. I never buy kombucha. I never drink kombucha. But I did have a phase in the pandemic of making my own kombucha, which I loved doing. And I drank my homebrew kombucha all the time. It always came out so fizzy yet fermented and delicious tasting, not too sweet, not too dry. I would pretty much always add fruit infusions on the second fermentation, which was the fun of it for me. I would say my favorite fruit infusion I did was an entire grated green apple. I did that one a few times. I love a green apple flavor, and it came across really nicely. Like pure sour apple flavor, not like overly, I don't know. Sometimes you'd put in some fruit and let it sit 3 days, and you'd get a little bit of a rotten fruit taste to the kombucha. Um, I'm nearing the end of this cup, and there's a little bit of hot cocoa mix sludge at the bottom of my mug, which I do hate. It is disgusting. I don't like to look at it, and I won't make you look at it. We are in a new recording setup. I'm always trying something new. It's difficult, as you know, in my tiny Chicago apartment to figure out the best strategy of where to record, but it just was sounding nice to me to be at a table for once, which usually I don't do that. And I already have my dining table here. Usually it's just against the wall here. So I've just turned it out and I'm directly in front of my jeweler's workbench, a very tiny workbench where I make jewelry, which has been out of commission for 2 months as I've been dealing with a torch issue. That is going to be resolved so soon, and I can't wait. And thank you to those of you who have been excited about jewelry or asking about jewelry. Keep waiting. One day, it's gonna happen. This year. This year, I can commit to. But ideally, I think I should be back able to work within like 2 weeks. I'll have a new part for my torch. And I already have a nice number of pieces stockpiled. I just would like a little bit more, and then it's all the work of figuring out branding, packaging, and a website, and learning how to run a business with physical product, which I'm not looking forward to. I am looking forward to people having physical products that I crafted with my own two hands. I'm just not looking forward to the logistics, right? There's some like commercial that's been playing the past year aimed towards small business owners. I don't even know what they're advertising. Maybe some kind of shipping service, but it's like no one got into their business because they love logistics. Like no one's excited to be packaging orders and stuff. Which yeah, I mean, probably someone does, but I don't. I decided to go to Chicago YarnCon yesterday. If you saw me there or said hello, hi. I did talk to just a handful of cute and sweet people. At least one who told me she watches my YouTube channel. So hello, hello, if that's you. And if you and I did talk yesterday, then sorry if I was really awkward. I'm just like in an awkward and shy moment. Like sometimes I am the most charming, charismatic, and confident person, and other times I am a weird little freak and I like don't know how to act or how to talk. And I would say, honestly, I feel like that a little bit right now recording. I'm doing it anyway, but sometimes I sit down in front of my camera and it's just like the world's most natural thing, and it's such an easy flow that I don't think about at all. And I can tell today there's something in the air, or I don't know. I think I've had a little bit of anxiety the past few days. It could be any number of things. Usually I would say I'm pretty good about, because I feel like I was quite anxious as a kid and as a young adult, and then as soon as I realized it, I worked really hard to like identify what made me anxious. I also think I am lucky that there are many things, especially just about being self-employed, that I'm so that are it's well suited. Most people would probably prefer that, and most people are well suited to that. I especially feel well suited to that. I never liked being forced to go to school every day or do homework assignments and like work for someone else. And I think that would have extended into my professional life had I gone a traditional 9 to 5 job kind of route. I mean, I've always been self employed, but before I was doing knitwear design, I was just doing music and I was primarily teaching lessons. So even though I was my own boss, those long days I would put in where I would sometimes teach for 4 to 5 hours continuously. I love music and I'm a good teacher, but I did not look forward to that. And at the end of the day, I didn't have energy for anything. All this to say, I feel like generally the past few years in my day to day life, I luckily don't have a lot of anxiety, but every once in a while it comes back and catches up with me a little bit. And right now is one of those times. And like I said, I couldn't really tell you why. I mean, there's several things that are like little stressful things in the back of my mind right now. I won't get into all of it. But yeah, as I was saying, I went to YarnCon. It was cute. It was fun. Sorry if I was awkward. If we met. But shy and awkward people at a knitting event is kind of normal, right? But let me just, since I'm talking about it, show you what I got. I had no plan. Like I didn't know like what vendors were going to be there. I didn't have a project in mind. I already have a couple yarns for designs lined up, or sort of have an idea of yarn I might like to order for future designs. So I wasn't really shopping for like a sweater's quantity for a new design or something. And lately, if you watched my last video and if you have read my Substack and stuff, you might know that I've gotten really back into, not even back into, I'm into sock knitting for the first time in my life, which is nice, honestly. I've always liked hand knit socks, I just haven't liked knitting them. And something just had to click in my mind to find the joy in it and fully appreciate the process, and to be reminded of what I'm capable of when it comes to the monotonous, somewhat monotonous task of making 2 vanilla socks. So I picked up exclusively self-striping sock yarn and also spinning fiber. So, ugh, this might be my favorite that I picked up. It's probably the one I'm most excited about. It's really impossible for me to see at this distance from my camera what the focus is doing. So I'm trying to, I can tell on the monitor that I've got the yarn directly over my face, and maybe if I do that and move the yarn, it'll focus on the yarn for you. Last month, I was on the couch and I was just crawling up to the camera and putting things up to the camera, which I'm kind of sad I can't do that because this camera and this lens can focus quite sharply on something pretty close up and in high detail, which is, I love to see a yarn like this. And I'm sure a lot of you do too. But for this setup, I can get you here. Another thing about setup is I've got an LED light and a softbox diffuser or whatever it's called, which I don't know why I never really considered investing in any lighting solutions before this. But after getting this camera and recording my first video on it last month and thinking more about setup and placement and all of that, I just realized it would probably be a good idea and that it also didn't have to be like so expensive or something that would take up a ton of space. It's the LED, a tripod, and the little softbox cloth cover was like $50 online. So not bad. And maybe at some point I would even want to upgrade to having a second one here because I am still, like my problem last time, and my problem in this apartment is that I don't have a good source of light from a window. And furthermore, what light sources I do have are not angled at a nice way for any angle that I'd want to record video in. Really, the only window I have where I get light during some part of the day, if it's a sunny day, is in my living room. And yeah, I don't think I'd want to record with the camera that way. It was okay for the video I did last month, but it's not ideal to be in a dark room with just harsh natural light directly coming at one side. I did a short test clip with this light and with this setup, and I thought it looked okay. Hopefully, I would say from what I can see in the distance in the monitor, I look just the tiniest bit like blown out and overexposed, but I don't really mind that. That means that the colors are probably just gonna get picked up really nicely. And I think I think it's looking vibrant. But yeah, I hope this is a nice change for you with the lighting, and I could also probably figure out if it is too bright, I could be messing with camera settings, and there's a dimmable setting. The light came with a remote, I just didn't put batteries in it, so I just turned it on with the off-on switch that's on the power cord, and that's good enough for me, I guess. Anyway, this is the skein of yarn I am probably the most excited about. I can never stay away from blue and green, and it is from White Birch Fiber Arts. The subtitle on the bottom of their yarn label is "Friends Don't Let Friends Craft with Insipid Yarn." Insipid is a strong word to describe yarn. I can't even tell you exactly what the word insipid means, but it's not good. And I don't think I've ever thought to refer to yarn as insipid. I guess in this context, insipid would mean like uninteresting, uninspired, like low quality, potentially. But this is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 400 yards, 100 grams fingering weights, and the colorway is Deep Blue Dream. I'm not sure how many stripes this is gonna have. I see 1, 2, 3. I see at least 3 shades of blue, and I see, is it only 1 shade of green? I think there might be 2 shades of green, or it's just like tonal, but this is exciting. I finished these other self-striping socks that I'm going to show, and I subbed in other yarns for the toe, heel, and cuff, and they're folding socks that fit me. And I was able to use only 40 grams of the self-striping yarn, so I might make that my habit to find complementary colors to do heels, toes, and cuffs and to get more out of the yarn if I wanted to make a second pair. Or really what I'd like to do, and I'm sure this already exists somewhere that I could find, like on Facebook or on Ravelry or on Instagram, or rather than find something that already is going on, I could arrange this myself on my own YouTube and with my viewers and followers and stuff. But it'd be fun to be doing self-striping yarn swaps. Like as long as you have, at least 50 grams of a skein, you can like sign up for a swap or something. So once I have accumulated, 4 or 5 half skeins of self-striping yarn, I might reach out to see if anyone else has similarly, like I would want like self-striping nice yarn to trade for, but I'm sure a lot of knitters also buy these beautiful yarns, make one pair of socks, don't really want to make a second pair in the same with the same colors, and still have over half a skein left. Um, the next one I got is so similar. Again, I can't stay away from blues and greens, but in this case, it's mostly purple. It's purple, blue, and green though. And this is from BAH Yarns, and that stands, BA Yarns, duh. It's got a Rainbow Pride sheep on the label, and they have a picture here of how, let me cover my face and maybe it'll focus on the yarn. They have a picture of how it'll end up. You probably can't see it too well in the video, but I like that. I like it. It's also the stripes in this are like gradient stripes, which is really beautiful. They're not like, hard stripes. This colorway is Gonna Hurt You? Never. Or is that the name of the base? That must be the color. The base is called Tough Toes, and it's 80/20, superwash, merino, and nylon. This was also 80/20, right? Or was it 75/25? No, this is also 80/20, but they're not the same base. This is, I can't tell from looking, but this has the look of like a 2-ply, whereas this has the look of like a 3 or a 4-ply. This has more of that like bubbly 2-ply texture. Which also, because it's right in front of me, I might as well share. This was $37. This is $34. Everything's gotten more expensive, so it's no surprise. Like, I guess it's been a while since I've been shopping for yarn at a yarn festival. And yeah, I just like, I probably shouldn't be buying luxury yarn right now with my like budget, but I would rather be financially irresponsible and happy and have new yarn to knit with. It's also like, this is my community. Like, I don't want to go to a yarn festival and be, really tight with my wallet. And I still feel like I was tight with my wallet because I didn't buy that much. Take me back to the days where I was working full time and living with my parents rent free and would go to yarn festivals and spend like $700. I actually don't um, wanna. I would never, even if I were rich, I don't think I'd go back to that. Honestly, if I were really, really wealthy and wanted to spend that much money at a yarn festival, it would probably be to like buy yarns to do giveaways or to just give to people as gifts or to my friends and stuff. I don't think I ever necessarily want to be stockpiling yarn in my home. Like, even if I did have a bigger home, just because you get to the point where, and like to each their own. Like, some people, there are many people who have just unbelievably enormous stashes of yarn, and they self-admittedly are like, I'll never be able to knit this in my lifetime, and they don't care. They're happy to have it. They like having a yarn shop at their house and having options, and there's something to be said for that. That is appealing. But for me, I don't knit quickly enough. I don't want to have yarns that I'll never get to, and my tastes change constantly. What I like, the yarns I like, the colors I like, the patterns and types of things I'm knitting I like, all of that changes pretty regularly. So I'd rather have space and money to, you know, buy a little something here and there throughout time rather than stockpile and have an in-home yarn shop. But again, that's just me. No shade to anyone. Okay, third skein of yarn I bought from Chicago YarnCon. This is, it's funny, these honestly could like be a gradient kit of some kind. I went from blue-green to blue-green-purple to purple. This is like, one of the purple shades in this is kind of like a cobalty purple, but I wouldn't say it's blue. It's just like a dark bluey purple violet. This is from Passion Yarns. Quality hand-dyed yarns at everyday low prices. What was the price of this? Was this the one I bought upstairs? Yeah. This doesn't say the price, but it was expensive. It was probably... I remember this booth had a deal where if you bought 3 skeins, they would only be $28 a skein, which that is a good deal. And also I want to add, since I was talking about the prices and yarn just feeling expensive, it's normal for these self-striping yarns to be more expensive than non-self-striping yarns because they're very labor intensive for the dyers to dye. If you just think about it, it makes sense with how you have to lay out the yarn to make these repeating stripes. It's just a ton of work compared to taking a whole ball of yarn and dunking it into dye, right? So no shade to anyone who wants to charge whatever they want, you know? It's up for me to then also just decide if it's worth it to me. But I don't remember what this single skein was. I want to say it was probably close to $35. But yeah, if you bought 3, there was a really good deal. $28 a skein for self-striping. You're not going to find that from a hand dyer. There are some self-striping yarns like Knit Picks Felici is probably, I don't know how much it costs. If I were to guess, I would say it's $24 for 100 grams, maybe. But I don't know, it probably is more. Everything's more. And everything's already been, inflating like crazy the past few years. Now it's gonna just go up even more. All of these tariffs. That's one thing that's giving me anxiety is listening to the news every day. I listen to the radio, which I highly recommend it. Just one other thing to make me a little bit old-fashioned and esoteric as I like sit at my spinning wheel and like who's making yarn in 2025. I know a lot of people are, but you know what I mean? From a non-fiber person looking in, it's weird. But I also like to have a radio. I like to... It's nostalgic. Like, I'll admit that's a big part of it is it just feels cute and nostalgic in an old-fashioned way. But I also love NPR programming. Luckily, there is a classical music station in Chicago as well, which I sometimes listen to. More often than not, though, I put on NPR. And the main draw of listening to the radio for me is that I don't have to make any decisions. It's tiring. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like I often cannot choose something to watch on TV. It's one of the reasons that Housewives has been so appealing to me because it's a huge universe with all these different franchises in different cities, and I haven't even watched half of them. And sometimes there are entire seasons that I find kind of boring, but I watch them anyway because, like I said, like I don't mind walking out of the room when something like that is on. I don't need to give it my full attention. So it's really easy to just have TV like that going all the time. But at the same time, there's a new drama or comedy, like a real TV show coming out every week that people are talking about, and they all like kind of sound appealing. Like I want to give everything a try, and then when I sit down, first I have a hard time just picking which streaming app I want to open. I don't have all of them. I wish I did, honestly, but I have a lot of them. And then if I can even get that far to pick an app, I can't pick a show half the time. I like can't commit, and then I spend 20 minutes looking, and then I either just put on Housewives or I like don't watch anything. All that to say, it's nice to not have to like be on my phone trying to choose a Spotify playlist or a podcast or a YouTube video to have on if I'm going to be cooking and cleaning and stuff. Just put on the radio if I want something on. I also think there's value and not having to consume audio or visual content all the time. Like sometimes in the car, I'll be listening to something and realize that I'm like crashing out a little bit of like getting stressed out by what I'm hearing, or like the fact that there is continuous music, especially if I'm on like a really long drive and I'm like, I just need silence and let me enjoy the silence of my drive a little bit. Anyway, I don't know how I got onto the subject of the radio, but did I say what this 75/25 superwash merino nylon, the colorway is 210? Behold. And yeah, that is Passion Yarns. I believe these are the only 3 skeins of yarn that I purchased. And I haven't done any spinning in months, and I know I talked about many times doing a spinning video, and I actually had a bunch of footage for it. I just like waited too long, and then I started to like feel like I didn't like the footage anymore, and also didn't want to go through it all to try to figure out editing a video, so I deleted that. But whether or not I make content about it, I have fiber to spin at some point when I feel like spinning. Let me show the fiber I got from YarnCon. Then there is some other fiber actually that did not come from YarnCon. So I got these 2 matching bats. Oops. From Handmade Hollows, which she had a small booth and had like a real variety of things for sale. She just had like one little tray of bats, and I was talking to her about her bats and how much I like them, and she had mentioned that she hasn't devoted much time to making bats recently, but I liked what she had, and these were 2-ounce bats, and they were only $12 each, which that's really inexpensive for carded bats. Carded bats often cost, like by the gram, they cost just as much as indie dyed yarn. And lately, I feel like the trend, especially for bats, yeah, only talking bats, like braids can often be much cheaper than uh, hand dyed yarn if we're comparing those. But bats are often just as expensive or more, and I've noticed the trend over the past few years. There are a few makers whose bats, they're really beautiful, but they're going for much more expensive than a skein of hand dyed yarn. And I'm sure spinners who have the funds buy them, otherwise they wouldn't be selling them for that much. I just can't justify the cost for my practice. I'm like, I can't be spending more than what yarn that's already ready to knit would cost. But in a way, if I think about like the time spent on the craft and the hobby, which is something I love, and especially when I'm spinning, that's not usually like for a design, that's just for fun. You get more hours of enjoyment out of spinning fiber than you do yarn, assuming that you're going to knit or crochet what you've spun, or weave, of course. But that's a big assumption to make. And I feel like props to people who are spinning for projects and following through. They exist, but so many spinners are spinning for the love of spinning, and they collect their hand spun, they don't really knit it, or they sell it, or they give it away. But anyway, these were a nice price. And then I love this bat. It's very beautiful. It's kind of like a gray, magenta, purple, pink, blue, rainbow, like Tweety bat. This maker was so cute. It's just labeled as mystery bat, 50 grams. I feel like I just followed this maker on Instagram. Her Instagram is Kira WXYZ. That's Keira WXYZ. I feel like she came up on my Instagram and I followed her instantly just because I loved her page and her aesthetic. And I don't feel like I know that many or follow that many like indie fiber people as much. I know they exist, but there's less of them than the indie yarn folks. So when I see someone doing fiber that like has a really cool vibe, I always want to follow them because I feel like that's missing a little bit from who I'm aware of, who I know, who I follow. And yeah, I could be wrong. I strongly think this is the same person who I followed on Instagram recently, because it says hand dyed in New Jersey, and I feel like I remember seeing that on her Instagram that she was either in New York or New Jersey. That sounds so familiar. And I feel like it crossed my mind at YarnCon. I was like, she seems kind of familiar, like maybe that girl I followed, but I didn't actually fully put it together because a lot of the people at YarnCon are like Chicago local. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I actually don't know that. That's just the sense that I got, is that there are actually, because Chicago's such a big bustling American city, there are plenty of there's a lot of local talent who come take booths, which I love. So I wish I had told her that I had just followed her on Instagram and that I loved her stuff and that I was happy to see her. But I'm glad I bought something. I'm glad I knew, like, deep down in my soul, intrinsically, that this was someone cool who I wanted to support. Kira Wiggins, she has, I was telling her I loved her labels, which are just like embossed, and she was like, oh, I hand like stamp all of those. Good for you. This is just 50 grams. I want to say it was like probably $20. So yeah, this is getting into the territory of like 100 grams of this would be $40, so more than a skein of yarn. But it's a lot of work to make these bats. And a lot of people who make carded bats often also dye all of their fiber components. So they're dyeing all the separate fibers and then hand blending them onto a carder. I'm never trying to take away from anyone's work and discussing how much things cost. It's just, as a consumer, it's on my mind. I have to think about it, right? I think most of us do. I'm really excited about this. I don't know what... I bought it because it's pretty. And I like the vibe of the girl selling it. I don't know that I would be able to spin something for a one project with just this fiber and like not using anything else. Surely if I spun really, really fine, there's something that could be made with 50 grams, you know? I don't know what's in this fiber-wise either. It doesn't say. It just says mystery bat. Maybe there's info on the inside of the label, but I kind of doubt it. But it is feeling like wool. And like, it's looking also like maybe sari silk, which is a common additive, and a little bit of sparkle. But I would say it's almost all wool. So probably not any like nylon for socks. Not that, I am not the kind of spinner who is trying to spin for socks, but I don't know. I've never been so much of a sock knitter before. So maybe now that I'm such a sock knitter, I would potentially want to spin for socks that I would knit. I don't know. This is really soft. Yeah, this is softer than this. for sure. Um, Yum. Okay, that's everything I got from YarnCon. That was fun. I'm glad I went. If I am free, I'll probably go again next year. There's also H&H coming up, which I've never been to an H&H. It's more of like a commercial industry event for like yarn shop owners, for example, to go see what they would like to order for their stores. But as a designer, it would also be of interest to me to go see a bunch of new commercial yarns in person. It's actually very interesting to me, so I probably should prioritize trying to go to that if I can. Um, Let me keep talking about my last couple of acquisitions because that's kind of already the headspace I'm in. So I picked this up, which is a cone of sock yarn called watercolor sock. And it's enough yarn to make two identical gradient socks. It's from Laine du Nord, which I'm pretty sure they're distributed by Knitting Fever because I'm always looking at the yarns on the Knitting Fever website, and I'm pretty sure I've seen this there before. But I stopped into, my mom was visiting me in town. I guess she would have left just like a little over a week ago. So the week before last, she spent the whole week here with me doing cute Chicago stuff, which was fun. But on one of her days, I decided to check out Sister Art's Yarn Studio, which is where Park actually used to work back when she worked at a yarn shop in Chicago. And the lady in there, was it Jamie? I know there is a Jamie. I don't know if that's who I met. But whoever was working was super sweet, and there was a lot of gorgeous yarn, a lot of inspiring stuff. It's a beautiful shop. Um, if you are in Chicago or visit Chicago, I recommend it. I couldn't really pick anything, and again, like I didn't really need anything, but I hate to leave empty-handed. I want to support any shop I go into, so I was like, let me just get a skein of sock yarn. I better stick to this loving socks because I'm really starting to stockpile sock yarn, but I think I will. It's just a matter of sticking to the habit of knitting them, and it's been part of like making time for a knitting practice that exists outside of my work knitting. By the way, my radiator just kicked on, so if you're hearing gurgling, bubbling, clicking noises, that is the ancient technology of my radiator. I guess it's gas powered. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. What else did I get? More spinning fiber. So this is from Amy Scher, who's been one of my friends on Instagram for years now. I actually met Amy when she had first knit an Earth and Air sweater, and she had done a big feature about it. I feel like she was doing it as a collab with like Wild Hand or some yarn shop. And at that time, she was not designing, and now she's a really successful designer. If you don't know Amy Scher, look up her stuff. But she also has a web shop where I I know she like definitely carries a few yarns there. I'm not sure if she is dyeing yarn or not. But she has custom milled fiber, which I think is so cool. She's very into like spinning. She spins a lot. She's crafty, okay? I feel like she weaves too. Um, but it's so cool to me as I feel like primarily in the industry she's doing pattern writing and knitwear design, but I just love that she on the side for her web shop has done a custom fiber blend, which I don't even know how you do something like that. It's probably something I should talk to her about because like maybe I need to have a custom fiber blend one day. Since I'm gonna be selling jewelry and getting into physical product anyway, maybe I sell rings and braids. But she had announced this blend on Instagram, and I saw it and immediately was like, oh my gosh, I want to spin that so bad. And it's beautiful. It was a good price. It's 4 ounces, so that's 113 grams. And it is merino, sari silk, and tweed. Made in the UK. It's really soft and it feels like it's gonna spin really nicely. I'm a little bit hesitant to buy braids of fiber when they are like kettle dyed. When you see a braid that has like beautiful like pools of color that were obviously like dyed in the braid form, if you know what I mean. If you're a spinner, you probably are following me. But the reason I'm hesitant to buy them is because a lot of times I feel like fiber that's dyed that way has just like the acid dyes are really harsh on the fiber. So when it hasn't like been processed further in terms of like being drafted or pulled apart from the dyeing process, it like almost has a little bit of like a felted texture, and sometimes those yarns can be difficult to spin. But this type of braid, this is obviously just like, I mean, there's colors in it, so clearly there's stuff that's been dyed, but the color, it's like everything is dyed, and it's I don't know if I would call it raw material, but it's been dyed prior to being blended and processed into this braid, if that makes sense. So it just has such a like soft, lofty, draftable feel. Anyway, I like blends like this. I also love like if you want to spin from a braid that is going to give you like a gradient, then you kind of need the braids that are dyed in the roving form or in the top form. But for like a blend like this, I really like it, and it's nice. And Amy also included a cute little note to me. And I mean, I think everyone probably gets this cute ass card when you shop with her, because it's just like a shop card. But she had handwritten a little note on the back, which was sweet. And then she threw in some freebie stitch markers, which was really nice of her. And if you are a fan of cutesy enamel progress keepers or stitch markers, check out her store, because these are all cute little pastries and desserts. We've got macarons, a cake, a pie, and a croissant. And I never buy stuff like this for myself, but I do like it. So when like anyone gifts me something like this, I'm very grateful, and I do like to put these things to use and be like, ooh, my knitting is elevated now. So yeah, I haven't done any spinning in a while, and suddenly I have all this exciting fiber. I had purchased a bunch of fiber for a sweater spin, and you know what? I'm not committing myself to finishing that project rather. If I feel inspired to get back to that project, then great. If not, maybe I destash that fiber. I already spun 2 skeins of yarn, but yeah, I'm not feeling inspired by that right now. And I'd much rather spin one-off fun skeins, which I like to just have around, or I give them away. I've given multiple hand-spun skeins of yarn to Park. Will she ever knit them? Only time will tell. Speaking of Park, Park and Jessie May's show launched last month, Knit Nat Chit Chat. Hopefully, and probably many of you watched it and loved it. I was there watching live. I really loved it. It was a success for them. I think they enjoyed themselves, and their next show is going to be, I believe, this week on Wednesday, which I have a rehearsal Wednesday night, so I probably will not be able to tune into the live. but then it'll just be a treat for me to watch later. And if you miss the lives, you can always watch them later. So make sure you check out Knit Nat Chit Chat, subscribe, support them. I think if you like my channel, you will probably like theirs. It's also just a chatty, crafty, cozy vibe. Okay, so other newly acquired things or things maybe I didn't talk about last time, I don't remember. I started a project that may never get finished. I really, my eyes may have been a little bit bigger than my stomach when I decided to do this, but it was important to me to try, okay? I have here too much stuff on my table. I have here, first of all, I bought one of these things. It's a yarn holder and like a spindle. So there's a few different kinds. This kind has a magnet on the top of the spindle, which just attaches there. And then when I'm knitting, that can spin super easily. And the reason I decided to purchase this for this project, because I knew it was going to be a long haul project. So I didn't want the yarn cake getting disturbed if this is something that I might work on for like 6 months to a year. And the other reason is that this is cobweb yarn, which a lot of people probably haven't even heard of cobweb yarn because it's not in common use. It's more of a specialty thing. But if your fingering weight is 400 yards per 100 grams and your lace weight is 800 yards per 100 grams, your cobweb yarn is 1600 yards per 100 grams. So really, really, really fine stuff. I wrote a really funny and interesting Substack, if I do say so myself, about buying this yarn and starting this project and how it's like delusional of me because I don't know that I'll ever finish it, but I'd like to try. So here is the start of my Shetland Bound, I believe is the name of the pattern, by A Passion for Lace. Very like fine lace knitting celebrity, Monique Boonstra. She has a lot of gorgeous patterns, and I probably should have started with something a little smaller. I believe this project is going to use at least 1,200 yards of this yarn. And it's knit on like size 1.5 needles, really tiny needles. I'm gonna be real honest and just say I haven't knit this in like more than 2 weeks between getting ready for my mom to come and my mom being here and then the week since she's left. I've just been so busy and I need to like not make excuses because here's the thing. I am a good lace knitter and I can be a very driven and diligent person, but it's kind of what I tell people when they like talk about wanting to get into knitting and like want to know what I think about that and whether they should knit. And I think everyone should knit if they want to knit. But I don't think the hard part is like the learning to knit. I think the hard part is developing a practice of sitting down and actually knitting every day rather than being on your phone or playing a video game or whatever else it is you do to spend your free time. I'm well aware of that, and I'm also knitting every day, obviously, or most days, but I have a few projects going on at a time, and usually there's something work related, right? So this is just purely for my own enjoyment and betterment as a lace knitter. And I would like to not make excuses because even 2 rows a day is progress that adds up, and it's way more progress than 0 rows a day. If I had done 2 rows a day for the past like 2.5 weeks, that's like several repeats on this chart. That's actually not true. I'm on the first chart still, and it's like one big chart. It's like 80 rows. But it would have been a significant portion of that chart. So anyway, after I'm done recording this, I will knit at least 2 rows on this tonight, okay? I promise. I had to think about it. I almost crossed my fingers behind my back to protect myself from lying, which is not something I've ever done. But I saw someone do it on Survivor, and it really made me laugh. I watched my first season of Survivor ever, which if you're a Survivor fan, it was the Black Widow Brigade season, and I really enjoyed it. And I feel ready to get into Survivor a little bit more heavily, but I don't have Paramount Plus, which is what I believe you need for streaming Survivor. And I don't really want to get it, but I might be willing to get it. I might be willing to like get rid of Peacock and get Paramount Plus if I ever run out of Housewives. But I would never run out of Housewives because they're always making new seasons, which are going to keep coming out on Peacock, and I'm going to keep watching them. So we'll see. At another time, maybe it would be a worthy investment if I'm ready to like really get into Survivor. Whatever. Okay, I'm putting this away. Over here. What else do I have to show? Let me show a finished object. So speaking of sock knitting, thumbnail. This is my thumbnail. Okay, hopefully I got the thumbnail. These are just a pair of vanilla socks. My go-to. 56 stitches is what I realized I like for stockinette stitch socks. I do 64 stitches for my rib socks. But 56 stitches and a German short row heel, toe up, and I think I may have mentioned these in the last video as a whip. I'm not sure if I had started these yet. And I can't remember the brand. It's like the Yarn Jar or the Yarn Shed or something. It's an Etsy brand of self-striping yarn. And the colorway was something like Summer Wildflowers, I want to say. But they're really beautiful. They're so cute. I did make them for me. And then when my mom was visiting, I thought, like, let me have her try on some of my hand knit socks and I can get an idea if I want to knit her socks. Like whether I would need to do more or less stitches, make them longer or shorter. Because this was self-striping and I wanted the stripes to end up perfectly with the end of one stripe going into the heel and the start of the next stripe, I ended up making these just a little bit short for my foot, but I really like a tight sock. So I was happy with the way these were fitting when I was done. But that ended up being a good thing for my mom because they actually fit her kind of perfectly. Like, for me, I could not pull the heel past my heel. For her, it sits naturally really nicely on her heel. If she yanked it, she could probably pull the heel above her heel a little bit. So she could maybe use one less stripe, and I could probably use one more. But they fit her nicely. I asked her if she wanted them, and she pretended to not want them for 2 seconds. She was like, "Well, you know, you made them for you. I don't want to take them if you need them." And I was like, "Mom, I don't know when your next sock offer is gonna come." Like, she was like, "Okay, I'll take them. I want them. They're mine. Give them to me." And I was like, "Okay, let me just keep them until I can record my podcast and talk about them, and then I'll mail them to you." And then she reminded me many times before the end of her trip to not forget to send her these. So maybe tomorrow I will send her these socks. What else? Aren't they cute? When I'm showing stuff like this, I'm hesitant to move on and put it away. Like, I want to keep talking about these for an hour just because I like them so much, but there's simply not that much to say about them. They're vanilla socks that I'm giving to my mom. End of story. And what I could say about them is the brand, and I don't even come ready with that information for you. I have a good habit these days. When I finish a pair of socks, I cast on the next pair. So this is my next sock I'm working on. It is in the colorway Dragon Fruit, and it has a real dragon fruit look to it. And it's like a 70-20-10 or an 80-10-10. merino cashmere nylon, so that 10% of cashmere, you can really feel it. It makes it gushier and warmer and just that much more lovely. This has got one of those pun names for the yarn brand, like the Knitwit or something. Knitted Wit. I don't know. I got it in the yarn shop in Peoria, so go to Peoria if you want this yarn. I think I also talked about this yarn before I had started the sock in last month's podcast, and maybe I was better prepared that time. I don't know. That's my sock whip. What else? I have only one other knitting whip going at the moment, which I started this a long time ago, like several months ago. And then I've just recently come back to it because I didn't have anything else to work on. This is my DK basic drop sleeve sweater as part of my series of basic drop sleeve sweaters. I talk about them all the time, so I won't go into all the details. You already know. But this is out of Noro Yukata, which is their fingering weight yarn, or a fingering weight yarn from Noro, which, pray for us all when the tariffs hit Noro yarn. That is not cool. Noro is already expensive. Like, I frequently work with Knitting Fever, and they are very generous in supporting my designs by sending me yarn. But I also have to think about, as a designer, about whether or not people can afford to buy the yarn I'm suggesting in designs. And I already am aware of the fact that when I'm designing in Noro, it's luxury yarn, you know? It's not inexpensive. So, I don't know. Like, I guess it's just going to be extremely expensive once tariffs hit it. Or hopefully they go away. No telling what they're going to do up at top. Sorry to give you the tariff scaries, but it's on all of our minds, you know? Not much to say about this. Beautiful self-striping, mostly silk. Actually, this is going to be a long sleeve sweater. It's going to be a size large, and I'm kind of thinking I could have gone down to a medium, sort of between a medium and a large in my designs. And this has enough positive ease where I might have preferred a medium, but we'll see. Maybe I'm going to really love the baggier fit of the large. Sorry for the sirens. Nothing I can do about it. I live next to the police station and the fire station. Beautiful colors. I'm whizzing by on this pretty nicely. I knit this for like an hour earlier. And there's only one more drop sleeve sweater after this, and then I'm done with that series, and I'll be so excited to have the ebook done and out. Though I've decided, I don't know why I do stuff like this, I decided to put a little bit of short row shaping in the shoulders, which I haven't written this pattern yet completely. I kind of have a draft that I started a long time ago, but I think I would like those short rows to be optional, because the idea of this series of sweaters is that they're very easy and basic. But at the same time, it wasn't that much work for me to add in the short row shaping for the shoulders. I know many people want that and prefer that, right? So I don't want either to be the only option in the pattern. And there already are like options in the pattern that affect formatting. So that's one thing I've been thinking about, is like, I'm going to have to work on finding the right formatting for all these options where there's still a nice flow and it's sensical. But I'm not saying I have to do this, but since it is all one series of patterns, I may consider adding the same options to the older patterns that have already come out. But it's just like, it's something to think about. Like, do I need to knit a new sample to try out those short rows? Probably not, but I might want to, and who knows when I would have time to do that. Yeah, it's also not a big deal if just some of the sweaters have more options than others. Here's something else that I feel like I only had a swatch for this in my last video, and now I have a finished object. This is my strippy stripe tank top, knit out of Pearl Soho Cotton Chirp. Isn't that cute? It is just thumbnail. It is so vibrant and happy and fun, and it's going to come out in June. So perfect for a little Pride Month moment. The cotton is, I don't really love knitting with 100% cotton, but for something like this, it's actually perfect. I just don't love it because it can make me a bit hot and sweaty and it really can absorb moisture. But if I am going to go all cotton, like a slinky little tank top is really good for it. I'm not going to overheat in something like this. Um, but I like it's inexpensive and they've got so many vibrant colors, and it doesn't have to be Pearl Soho Cotton Chirp. There are even cheaper cottons that also have other colors and stuff. But any DK weight cotton or not cotton, like this is also designed to be a perfect stash buster scrappy pattern. So like 2 strands of fingering weight or just your DK or worsted weight scraps going into this and striping. I just did stripes between 1 and 6 rows. The construction is really fun. It's knit side to side, right? So that you get these vertical stripes really easily. So you're knitting it this way, and you cast on at the side seam of the front, and then you work the front and the back continuously in one big flat piece. And then you actually start with a provisional cast on. So when you get to the end of your body, you you take out the provisional cast on and put it with the ending and do a Kitchener stitch to graft them together seamlessly. And then it's just I-cords on all the edges, which I know they're a pain to knit, but I like them. Especially on my summer designs and tank tops, I almost always do I-cord edgings because they're minimal and they're clean and they're sweet. But I've never done color changing, like striped I-cords before. And I just was tying magic knots to change colors because there were so many ends on this from the stripes that I wove in all my ends on the body before beginning the I-cords just so the edges were clean for me to work with. And it was probably a good 3 hours of weaving in ends. I feel like I was watching TV for quite a while working on that. And I was not in the mood to create any more ends, and it would have created a decent amount more to stripe my I-cords in a more traditional way. So what I opted for was tying the magic knots, which is not the most elegant. Like you can feel and find the knots, but it doesn't bother me for a slinky little slutty like rainbow fun tank top like this. Not a big deal. This also was so fast. This is in testing already. I feel like it's been forever since I had a pattern come out because I don't think I have since January. But it's April now, so actually let's talk about what I'm wearing. I've been wanting to wear this for a podcast episode, but I figured I should wait till it's closer to when it's coming out. This is A Shirt of Fire and Ice, which is my newest modular pattern, and it's my first time designing a modular pattern in anything other than Noro yarn. I always want to try other color changing yarns, but the allure of Noro just drags me back in every time. But finally, I decided to collaborate with Spin Cycle on this, and sorry, I keep looking in the monitor and thinking like, oh my god, is my camera dead? Is it frozen? I plugged in the camera, but it didn't really give me much indication that it was charging, so hopefully it is. There's too much tech going on between my mic, which also is plugged into the camera, and it's wireless, and I've got this light here. Oh my god. Anyway, this is A Shirt of Fire and Ice, and it's just 3 horizontal bands that are striped. So this is also knit side to side, but you get the fun broken stripes going vertically. And the instructions tell you exactly how to like lay out stripes like I've done in this version. But this is a really fun pattern to just do your own thing on. You can do irregular stripes like on that tank top. You could use a color changing yarn and just not stripe. In this case, both of these are color changing yarns, but they're very subtle. Like Spin Cycle has some of those colorways that just, shift between 2 or 3 shades, tones of like one color. And then they have others that are more like Noro, which are like going through a whole bunch of different colors in one skein. So you could do what I've done and alternate 2 color changing yarns. Many testers have done all solids. One tester just did like 1 color for this band, 1 color for this, one for this, all solid. But many people, they did the stripes, they just did them in solid colors. And some of them were do like a block. Like Makerbee did a beautiful version. I can't wait to see it on Instagram so I can share it. Which if you don't know Makerbee, they're on Instagram and have a great YouTube podcast. And they've been active on YouTube these past like few days. So check them out. But Makerbee sometimes tests for me, and I'm always happy to see their name pop up in one of my tests. I love what they knit and their aesthetic. But they've done, I'm pretty sure they used all solid colors, but like maybe a block of like purple and green stripes, and then a different block of like orange and yellow stripes, and something like that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they just did like 2 colors the whole way through, but I'm pretty sure they had a little selection of solids and sort of color blocked those striping sequences. So this will come out on my birthday, which is April 22nd, and I am turning 32, and I will run my big birthday sale. It's my only big sale of the year. Occasionally, I'll do another little sale here and there for a new pattern or for a selection of my patterns, but this is generally the only chance you get to get a discount on my entire pattern library, and that will include the ebooks that I've started to publish the past year. And that's also a fun reminder. The day this comes out will also mark the publication of my newest pattern bundle. So if you love my modular patterns, maybe you've really wanted to try them and you haven't, and you want to get all of them for a really good price, I'm going to put all of my modular garment patterns into one ebook bundle. So you get them at a discount, and then there'll be a sale, so even more heavily discounted. Or like even if you just had one of those patterns, it would still probably be worth it cost-wise to buy the bundle, even if it meant having a repeat. You know what? If you own one of my modular patterns and then you buy the bundle, I give you permission to just text or email your repeat pattern to a friend. As if you couldn't already do that. But luckily there is like a sense of honor and shame in the knitting community where most people are not willing to steal the intellectual property of knitwear designers, or if they are, they wouldn't dare ever admit to it. People ask me that a lot when I tell them what I do, like, how do you protect your work? And I'm like, I don't. Like, there isn't really anything I can do. And like legally, like like my hands are tied. There's so little recourse for someone sharing my pattern. Or bro, my camera just died, and I went to go inspect why it died. I did see when I plugged it into charge that it didn't indicate that it was charging. I was like, okay, whatever, I don't know how to use it. And then when I went and saw what my setup was, I had plugged the power end of the USB-C cord. I had just shoved it into a big fat like old style USB port without realizing what I was doing. Which I know the difference between those, but I honestly didn't realize how big the hole was, and that's on my vision being bad and getting older. I've had worse and worse vision problems lately, I've noticed. Anyway, I plugged it into the proper channel, and now it says it's charging, and I let it charge for a good 3 minutes before restarting this video because I'm already recording. I just want to get it done, and I can't start this over or do this tomorrow. Okay, it's too much. I'm already annoyed that now I have to like splice together clips. It takes a long time with files this size. But I was just saying how like people are always concerned for my intellectual property being stolen as someone who sells little PDFs on the internet, and that's understandable that people would worry about that. Maybe I should worry about it. I don't, though. I just trust that there are enough good, honorable people who would like to support me, and that I operate with an assumption that there is some amount of pattern theft that I could never do anything about, and I also don't really want to know about it. So sure, if like there was like a large scale pattern theft ring where like there was like drama recently with some Discord where people were just like sharing patterns willy-nilly. Um, and I guess they got it shut down, but I'm sure those people, if they really want to build a community around that, they can just do it again somewhere else and be more careful about who they let in. Yeah, nothing else to say. Thank you to those who support me. I was saying how this is coming out, so yes, please shop my birthday sale. Make a James and Watts pattern. They are lovely. Treat yourself and support me, please. I have surgery at the end of the month on my butt, which sadly, this is not my first butt surgery, but my first butt surgery was emergency butt surgery, which thank God this is not emergency butt surgery, but they are doing a total rejuvenation down there. I guess I won't get into the specifics. It really wouldn't bother me to get into the specifics, but none of you asked. So I don't know. If you really want to know the details of what's going on with my asshole, let me know in the comments. And then when I record a video next month, if there's enough demand, I'll let you know in explicit detail what I had done down there. But let's just say this, it needs to get done. I have horrible health insurance. My deductible is something like $7,000 before my benefits start kicking in. So I just got a bill from the consultation with the surgeon, and that was $350 for him to stick a finger in my butt and talk to me for 5 minutes. That's one of the things I'm feeling stressed about these days. I don't really I will have to go under anesthesia, which the main thing that's annoying about that is that it's just one more bill to pay. But I don't like to go under. It's freaky. But I also don't like to be intubated. It's really violent and makes you have like a sore throat for a long time. It can also like permanently damage your vocal cords and mess with your speaking voice. But I don't really care about that. The main thing that's stressful about it to me is the money, which at least like medical debt doesn't really. I don't think it accrues interest, and you can usually pay it off on your own time. Uh, but taxes are also due this month, and in general, it's just been such a financial shift of leaving Croatia and then moving to a more expensive city than I've lived in before. And yeah, everything's getting more expensive. I am working a lot. I'm working constantly, but I particularly have started to work a lot more doing violin and piano, which I love. Like it's what I'm trained to do. It's what I have degrees in. And I'm happy to be back into playing music professionally. I was missing that in Croatia. But it doesn't pay that much, honestly, for what the cost of living is. But I'm really booked this month. Out of 4 weekends in April, I am out of town playing gigs for 3 of the weekends. I just got back from Illinois Symphony, which was a great concert, and I offered comp tickets on my Instagram story, and a knitter took me up on them, and she came to watch me in Bloomington, and it made me really happy. Like, it's so nice to actually, like, I genuinely played better and focused harder and cared more, even though this was a total stranger to me. I was like, there's someone here to see me, and like I want to do my best for them, and it just felt so nice to have someone in the audience for me. So thank you to Paige who took me up on those tickets. And if you ever live somewhere where I'm performing and I'm offering comp tickets, unless you hate classical music or something, don't be shy. Like I always hope someone will take them, and usually no one does. It's happened a few times. I many years ago offered comp tickets in Montreal and had someone come watch me in Montreal. That was cool. But yeah, this weekend on Wednesday I'll go away again, which I feel like I just got home because I did. I got home like Saturday at midnight. On Wednesday I leave again for Peoria Symphony, which that concert is on Friday. If anyone in the Peoria area would like to see what should be a pretty fun concert, it's like a Beethoven symphony and some contemporary music as well. Violin soloist. Um, Holler at me and I'll get you those comp tickets. I feel like for that one, they ask us to ask in advance. Like, there might be a deadline for when we're supposed to reserve comp tickets, but probably what I should just start doing is always asking for comp tickets in my name because I wouldn't feel bad even if I didn't find someone to claim them because those concerts don't ever sell out. No offense to Peoria Symphony or any of the places I play. I'm not playing anywhere that gets sold out. But I have, when I get back from Peoria, I have a few days to do my taxes. I don't know how I'm going to pay my taxes, but I will file them and figure something out. Either put it on a payment plan or put it on a credit card, one of the two. And then I don't mean to bum you out talking about money issues. They're my issues, not yours, but whatever. Don't feel bad. I try not to let it get me down that much. And I'm hopeful for continued success and good things to come. I have the week off after Peoria musically, which is great because I need the time to do my taxes. I need to finalize the publication version of A Short and Fire and Ice, and then I need to, get everything together for running my birthday sale. And then at the end of the month, I will play with Des Moines Symphony, which is really far away. It's like 5 hour drive for only 3 services. It's like I'm kind of regretting doing that, but they pay really well. They pay way better than Illinois or Peoria. So it still is gonna probably be a decent amount of money, and I do get paid like mileage for having to drive. There's a limit of how much they pay you for your mileage, which I'm probably exceeding. I'm I'm going to get paid the max that they will pay anyone for mileage, but still, like, it helps offset the time and cost of traveling. Anyway, I'm excited for that concert though. I think Jessie May is going to come with me, which she's never gotten to see me play an orchestra concert that I know of, so that'll be really exciting. And we're doing it's a Final Symphony, so it's a symphonic suite of music from the Final Fantasy video game series. So if you are a big nerd and like video game music and you're in Iowa, I highly recommend you get a ticket at the end of the month for Des Moines Symphony Orchestra performance where I will be playing. And then I have 1 or 2 concerts. I have one for sure in May, and then maybe I feel like I might get asked. I only sub with Illinois Symphony. I only just started subbing with them, but it seems like they always need someone, and now that my name's in the mix with them, they've been asking me, but they ask really last minute, and I almost want to email them and just be like, please let me know if you need someone in May so I can get it on my calendar, because I'm considering delaying my butt surgery because the date of their concert is like the first weekend of May, and it's a concert that I would really want to play. They're doing Shostakovich 5, which I've played many times, but it's always fun to play. It's a really great piece. There's a reason it's programmed so frequently. And from talking to my doctor, I might be able to be back to normal life within like 2 days of surgery, but there's no guarantee. And I wouldn't want to like commit myself to something and then have to back out because I'm having butt problems. So I may end up delaying butt surgery until like more like mid to late May. Pretty soon I'm going to be swimming again in the lake, even though it's still cold. Once the air temperature gets a little higher, I don't care. I'm going to get in the lake. And that's something else that freaks me out about getting the surgery is it's like, how long am I going to have to stay out of the water? Because I treasure any moment that I can swim. Yeah. I did a little bit of swatch knitting, which if you were on my Instagram story, you probably saw these lace swatches. And this I did with Knitting for Olive Pure Silk and their mohair. This is an original lace motif that I came up with. It's kind of a random assortment of stitches and it's very weird looking. But honestly, the longer I've looked at it, the more I'm like, do I like it actually? Do I want to use it in something? People have compared it to moths and a Rorschach test. I would really like to have a lace garment. Either a lace drop sleeve sounds really nice just because it's so much easier to design. But I know so many knitters really, really want raglans. They want top-down raglans with like no seaming and everything knit in one piece, which I understand that. I love that construction too. Just it's a lot more work to grade and design a lace raglan than it is a lace drop sleeve. Sound off in the comments if you are someone who would actually be interested in a new lace garment from me. Like if you've knit dappled lace raglan or my mesh designs and you like that kind of thing. I don't know. Either give me permission to do a drop sleeve or tell me that it would really be worth it for me to do a raglan. And then you need to buy it. If I listen to you, you need to buy it. What else to report? What have I been reading? I finished something. I finished The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss, which is the second book in the Kingkiller Chronicles, which I was reading on my last podcast, and I was talking about how the fantasy community either loves or hates that book because the author has lost interest in writing and he's probably never going to finish the trilogy. And my attitude is that I'm grateful for two amazing books, even if the story doesn't get its ending. I don't care. I really enjoyed reading books 1 and 2. I hope he wakes up, our boy Patrick, and decides to write the last book. I would like to read it, obviously, but whatever. He can do whatever he wants, and it was not reason enough for me to not read or recommend those books. So if you're a fantasy reader, unless you'd really be put off by the potential for it never ending, those books, The Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear, they're both big long fantasy books, but I couldn't put them down. They're so exciting. What else? I've been still listening. I have not much. I've sort of taken a break until like this past week. I just started again listening to book 3, the final book, I believe, of the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson, which has been perfectly enjoyable on audiobook for me. I'm not crazy about it. I'm not like seeing quite the Sanderson hype that exists in the fantasy community. It seems like he's like the most beloved living author writing fantasy. But I want to keep reading Sanderson after this, at least one of his other series, even if I just start something like The Way of Kings, and just see how that feels to me, if it's like really gripping and I want to keep going with it, or if I'm good on Sanderson. But as far as reading a physical book, because I always like to have kind of both going, audio and physical, if I'm really into something, then I might be going back and forth between the audiobook and the same physical book. Like I was kind of doing that with Wheel of Time because I had to like get through all those books. But these days I'm usually doing separate books. And I started the 3rd book of the Earth-Sea Cycle by Ursula K. Le Guin. And I love those books. I'm having a little bit of a difficult time just shifting gears back to this series and like really locking in. And I want to be locked in because it's not like Wheel of Time where there's 14 books and it's like a lot of filler. It's you know, these books are short and I think they're really well written and every word feels precious. So I hate to feel that I'm not giving it my full attention. But I will try to read a little bit of that tonight and be locked into it. Am I playing any video games? Not much. I'm thinking about video games. I've actually been watching a lot of YouTube videos about video games, a lot of them about old video games, which I can really get into that, even if it's just kind of on in the background. But as far as actually playing them, I've just been feeling too busy. And like, I actually do make a lot of time for things that are not necessarily work related, but even that becomes a source of stress to balance like all the things I want to do purely for enjoyment and as a hobby. And recently video games have kind of gotten the axe, not fully. Like some nights I've been playing some stuff a little bit, but ideally I would like to play video games every day for several hours a day. It's been a long time since I've been doing that, like probably when I was getting into Elden Ring like a year ago, I was playing multiple hours a day and I was really enjoying myself. And like even if I put on Elden Ring right now and tried, I wouldn't be able to enjoy myself because I would feel too guilty for like not working or doing other stuff. But I downloaded Final Fantasy VI because I haven't actually played that many of the Final Fantasy games. Only one of them that I played all the way through, which was Final Fantasy III when they did the remake for Nintendo DS. I played that all the way through and really enjoyed it. Um, Others I've started here and there. But because I've always been aware of the Final Fantasy series and I've always loved their impact and the art and the aesthetics and the music, I like all of that. I just didn't really grow up playing it as much, but because I'm booked to play this concert at the end of the month, it made me feel inspired to get into a Final Fantasy game before playing that concert. So I decided to download the like pixel remaster of Final Fantasy VI on my Nintendo Switch, and uh, it can be difficult to get into these old turn-based JRPGs. Sometimes they feel a little bit too just like I'm sitting there pressing the attack button waiting for the battles to be done, especially in Final Fantasy where you're thrust into random battles where you can't see the enemies on the map before the battle starts. They just happen randomly. It can be a little tiring, but I'm just trying to enjoy it and keep it casual and play even for 15-20 minutes at a time. Same thing with my Shetland lace knitting project. Just 20 minutes here and there. It's going to add up, and one day I'm going to have this heirloom piece. But you know what's so scary about that Shetland lace is that the cobweb yarn is just so sensitive, and I'm clumsy, and I'm like, I'm going to wear my stuff, you know? I love the color I have. But I could see myself getting it hooked onto something in passing and it ripping. And, you know, luckily I'm not the type to cry over that kind of thing. Whenever something like that happens, I always, at least as an adult, I feel like I quickly have a moment where I'm like, do I want this to ruin my day? Yes or no? And the answer is always no. Like, it's always worth it to me to shut off my own feelings and emotions to have like a more constant, steady emotional state than to feel really emotional about something where I'd be beating myself up because I'd be like, oh, I'm so stupid and clumsy. I can't believe I wasn't more careful. And I would make myself feel really bad. And then I would also like be thinking about like, oh my gosh, I wasted so much time knitting this only to ruin it. And like just being dramatic. I'm like already processing these emotions for something I'm probably never even gonna finish knitting. I'm giving myself pre-anxiety for how delicate this thing that I don't even doesn't even exist yet is. But I'm sure you can relate. But yeah, I prefer to have the attitude that I do, where if I actually snagged it on something and ripped it, I would feel like, ugh, I feel bad. Like that is a real bummer, but I'm gonna move on. And like, I'm not gonna freak out about it. There's nothing I can do to undo that. I will try to fix it as best I can when I have time. And, you know, then it just becomes a mending project and it's still an heirloom, right? Anything else to report? Yeah, miss you guys. I would like to be doing more YouTube. I'm just busy all the time and I miss being at home. I want to be home, cozy, watching TV and knitting more. As much as I like am happy to be playing violin and love it, it's definitely a tiring lifestyle to be driving hours away and staying in hotels or Airbnbs for gigs, playing symphonies and stuff. But at the same time, I feel lucky to do it, and I'm like, wow, it's so cool that I am so good. I, I'm like I'm sound like I'm really bragging, but like it is a special and unique thing to be at a high enough level on a classical music instrument to be getting paid to play symphonic repertoire, and it's something I'm passionate about and I love, and it's like it's okay to brag about it a little bit, you know. I worked my whole life to be able to play the violin that well. But there's also some other auditions coming up I may take. I think I will take them, but that's just one more thing. I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna sign up for an audition for another orchestra, that means like right now I've been trying to, when I'm home, I'm trying to play piano between like 20 to 60 minutes a day, I'd say. And it's not like I don't even have to make myself do it. I love to sit down and play piano. It's really fun. Sometimes I have to like make myself actually practice rather than just play for fun, but the playing's easy. Violin, I don't really feel that way about. It's like a whole production to get it out of the case, and it's also like more difficult to do it beautifully than piano. So if I'm taking an audition, I really need to be preparing the month before, and that probably means like not playing piano as much. Or that reminds me, after I play my concert on Peoria in Peoria on Friday night, I'll drive. I'm actually gonna drive home the night of the concert, which I don't usually do. I think I will. Maybe I'll stay on Saturday. We'll see. Either way, I will be playing piano for mass on Saturdays, which is something. It's a job I've gotten here, playing piano for Catholic mass Saturday afternoons, which is so funny to me. I don't know. It's just so different from any musical like religious tradition I grew up with, but I'm enjoying it, and the people are really nice, and it's like an easy, fun gig, and I'm really happy to be getting my piano skills back up where I want them to be, and to be making money playing piano. I've been avoiding it, but probably it's time to start teaching violin and piano lessons again. And you know, I live alone, so it's not like I have to deal with any roommates. It's perfect environment for me to be able to teach from my home, even one day a week. That's something else I'm thinking about. But yeah, I started this video and was like, oh, I'm in such a weird mood and I feel like I'm going to just say everything I have to say in 30 minutes and be done. But as always, I ended up chattering on for a long time. And that's it. I'll leave you there. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, comment, thumbs up. Like, I used to always say that as a joke because it is funny and it's so cliche, but I'm starting to say it like genuinely. It's really helpful to me for people to engage with my work in that way and to get more eyes on it. If you like reading funny little personal essays or yarn guides or things about crafts and knitting and life and my experience, please also consider checking out my Substack called Sorry I'm Good at Everything, but my Substack is just jamesandwatts.substack.com. But it's totally free, and if you have money to spare and really enjoy my writing, then of course you are more than welcome to subscribe for $5 a month or $50 a year. But yeah, again, if you like reading stuff like that, check out my Substack. I did a summer yarn guide last week. The week before that maybe was telling the story of how I started learning Chinese as a middle schooler, which is funny. And I don't know what I'm going to write this week, but I'm trying to commit myself to having some written content for Substack every weekend. And so far, so good. But also, beyond that, if you're not on my newsletter, then go to jamesandwants.com and subscribe to my newsletter. My camera just did something scary, so I'm not going to give it the chance to die on me a second time. Thanks for watching. Love you. Bye.